Capcom's popular mascot is no stranger to spin-offs, dipping his toes in so many genres. But were any as good as when Mega Man or Rockman burnt some rubber around the racetrack? Only one way to find out. So prepare to eat some dust, man, in Rockman Battle and Chase. What sets Rockman Battle and Chase apart first and foremost is the gameplay. You know, not many kart racers actually manage to distinguish themselves from the golden standard of Mario Kart. A few do, like Sega's awesome All-Star Racing Transformed, and from what I've heard, Diddy Kong Racing, while almost everything else ends up being a carbon copy masquerading in a different skin. Thankfully, Battle and Chase has different bones, keeping it in a lane of its own. Series producer at the time, Inafune, wanted to bring the weapon-stealing element of Rockman and merge it into a kart racer. And in 1997, that's exactly what they did. The main mode here is Grand Prix mode, and the one thing I adore about this mode is the in-game play-by-play commentary, featuring an original cast of characters Plum and Ribbit. Such a cool feature that really sets this game's presentation apart. And to top it off, every race begins with a pre-race interview between Plum and your opponent. It's charming and stylish as hell. Sadly though, all this awesome content was cut from the Western release, so I strongly recommend the Japanese version, which you can pick up on PS3. Even if you don't understand the language, this is an easy game to pick up and play, and it really does add so much to the presentation that you don't want to miss it.
しかしこれではスピードで勝つのは難しいでしょう。ズバリ今日の作戦をお聞かせください。
I'll be back.
はい、どうぞ。1位はクイックマン、この後の展開が楽しみです。クイッカー、ゴールマン、トップに降り。
The gameplay itself has a lot of twists and turns. You'll be adding insult to injury by stealing parts off your opponent's ride after defeating them, and you can choose to take their engine, their wing, their tires, and after you've stolen all those, the body itself. This is an awesomely fun feature with so many combinations to try. The Frankenstein mishmash of all the parts not only changes the look of your ride, but significantly alters the performance. Some parts help you navigate corners better, some boost your speed, some let you run over landmines and certain traps, and some let you collect items at a faster rate. The difference in performance these parts make is not trivial at all. You'll be going through a series of races, each with varying levels of difficulty, with the last two races pitting you against Base, and of course, the nefarious Dr. Wily. And hot damn, bring your A game, because the final race can be a challenge, especially on additional playthroughs. Stealing car parts isn't the only unique mechanic here. Combat is pretty different as well. Each character has their own special weapon and playstyle. You can freely fire your weapon as long as you have the energy, and your energy will recharge automatically. You have two main abilities based on whether it's fully charged or not. For instance, Mega Man can either fire his lemons or a powerful charge shot, while Proto Man has the ability to alternate his shield location, and Roll can perform different jumps and skip around the racetrack, jumping over obstacles. And the list goes on. Every character feels wildly different from one another, and that's a good thing. Another big difference in Battle and Chase is the items. You won't be picking up random item boxes around the map. Instead, you're rewarded with items by shooting or running over the stage enemies. Literally the opposite of Mario Kart, where the goal is usually to avoid everything. In Battle and Chase, you're almost always on the offensive. Unfortunately, there's not much in the way of items, but they are pretty important, especially on the higher difficulties. You have one that acts like a barrier shield protecting you and letting you breeze around corners, one that disables your opponent's weapons, one that slows them down, one that briefly turns the stage enemies into bombs, landmines that you can place and remotely detonate when you see your opponent reach that area on the minimap, and a few others. They definitely come in handy. I just wish that there was more, and that maybe they themed some of them after some old Robot Master weapons. Even the barrier shield that's in the game could have been themed after Leaf Shield or the Skull Barrier, but for what the game lacks in item variety, it does make up for with a healthy roster. Each character has their own, fully voiced, arcade-style ending, and you have the expected participants, Mega Man, Roll, Proto Man, and Bass, but they included a handful of random Robot Masters, and I love it when they do that. It's an eccentric mix too. You got Shadow Man, Guts Man, Ice Man, Napalm Man, Sprain Man, and of course, who better for a racing game than Quick Man? If all those weren't enough, you can also unlock Duo and Dr. Wily, so there is no shortage of characters and parts to try. As for the racetrack, Battle and Chase features around 12 in total, with some being variations, with more complex layouts and a different time of day. And the stages are pretty good, but I would have liked to see elaborate themes based on the old Mega Man stages. For me, that's the biggest missed opportunity here. It would have been awesome to have racetracks and hazards themed after specific characters. To an extent, some are, like Iceman in the Ice Cavern, or Sprain Man in the Toy Factory, but even with those, it's pretty surface level. What would have really made the track shine is if they not only visually adapted the old stages, but also threw in some related gimmicks. For a Quick Man stage, you could go crazy with the speed pads on the ground, requiring the player to run over enough to make it past a series of laser traps. Or take Sprain Man's Toy Factory. Despite having a neat gimmick where the floor tiles change, it's missing something pretty obvious: sprains. Why not have sprains that launch the player to higher platforms, or put some on the walls to bounce them around? Or you could have some that might push you into a bottomless pit if you're not careful. Now that said, the courses aren't bad, just serviceable. There's a lot of untapped potential here. Outside of Grand Prix mode, there are two other modes, a versus mode and a time attack mode. In versus mode, you can play with a friend or against an AI, choosing your opponent, the track, and throw in some extra enemy racers like Sniper Joes or Yellow Devils. And in time attack, you'll be racing against the clock for 5 consecutive laps. Both of these modes have a few additional racetracks. There's the Sky Circuit, and if you clear the game multiple times with the same character, essentially collecting all the parts in the game, you'll unlock a space course and the Wily Fortress course.
本日このシティコースに新風が吹き荒れることでしょう。ダッシュ頼むぞ。マシンのコンディションもいいようですね。
As for the visual presentation, it is a 3D PS1 game, so it is a bit jaggy, but the art style actually holds up rather well. And there's so much charm, even outside of the commentary. The face cam view of your character reacting to everything during the race, and your opponent's reactions as you steal their car parts. It's all so damn cool. And the audio does not disappoint either. This soundtrack is incredible, especially the character themes. The composer, Yoshinori Ono, yes, the very same Ono known for his work in Street Fighter 4 and 5, composed the hell out of this guitar-heavy soundtrack. And it not only rocks, man, but it perfectly embodies the sound of Rockman and the spirit of racing. It's actually my go-to music for the Metal Heroes series, so suffice to say, I quite dig it. All in all, you can tell this game had a short development cycle, but with what little time they had, they actually managed to put together a great game here. It has the right recipe, it's well prepared, cooked evenly. They just left out a few spices that would have really kicked this game into high gear. With some reference-heavy racetracks and hazards based on the old Robot Master stages, and some more item variety, I believe this could have been one of the greatest kart racers to date. And I'd argue it is definitely the best spin-off in the classic series. Even as it is, you'd be hard-pressed to find a kart racer this good that doesn't rely on emulated Mario Kart. Now the controls will take you a race or two to get used to as you steer with the D-pad, but you'll be surprised how well it works actually. It's really responsive and easy to control once you're used to it. And when you are, there's a lot of fun to be had. Despite the untapped potential, Battle and Chase is still a damn fine game. A decent meal that brings something new to the table. And again, that something is distinctly Rockman, which makes me appreciate this awesome game all the more.
내 쇼다가